So in this video, we'll be going over a couple of navigation tools and getting used to Blender's user interface. Basics of navigation or object manipulation in Blender. Now, let's say that if I should quickly go back to, now I'm using the same tools we just learned to just adjust my focus or my eyes in the 3D world, just to get back to what we had, something like this, I think. I'm not sure. So let's see. Now remember that when we're going over the properties panel, we're able to move these objects with these sliders or this column. So let's say I want to do that in 3D space. How should I go about doing that, right? Without having to come here and then drag. It's not the most intuitive thing. So you have something called transformation tools. To the left of your UI or your screen, you see something called the toolbar. Now this is a very important bar. As you can see, we have several tools, but the major tools you'll be using are move, rotate, and scale. Now let's say I want to move my object, right? I want to move my object towards this direction, right? What you can do is you can click on this object, this icon, this cross. It's called the move tool, and you come to these arrows where you see them pointing towards a direction. Now the direction is pointing to is the direction, let's say you want to move it into. So if I want to move my object to the right, which is this direction, you can see that this arrow is pointing towards the right. So you just come over this arrow and then you left click and you drag. Yes, like magic, right? Now you want to move your object up. Same principle applies. You left click and you hover over the arrow that is going towards the direction you want to move your object in. You hover it like this and then you left click and you drag. So now let's move on to the rotation tool. Now the rotation tool is basically the same thing, but you have an arc as opposed to a cross or a directional arrow pointing towards what direction you want to move your object in. So this arc is indicating that, hey, if you click me, you are going to rotate this object towards the left side. If you click me, you're going to rotate this object to the right side or to the left side, depending on how you're looking at your object. So even on this, you can rotate it to this direction or to the other direction. So just by simply clicking the arc, you rotate it to the left of this direction or to the right of this direction, depending on where or how you're looking at your object. So on this direction as well, you can click on this and you can rotate it to the left or to the right of this direction. So to move on to your scale is the same thing. Your scale has the same directional arrows that point towards a direction you want to increase in size of your object. So let's say I want to increase my object on the z-axis, which is up. I click on this blue line and I move it up, and as you can see, we're creating a rectangle now, or a pillar. You can look at it at any, like, as you can see now, we're creating a rectangle or a pillar or a building, depends on what you want to do. And as you can see, if we click on this line, we're extending it towards direction. We're making a road, basically anything we want to. Let's say I want to move my object without having to come and click here. What you can do is click your object and press G. Now G is for grab, and you can see that wherever we're moving our object, wherever we move our cursor, we're moving our object in. So this is an easier way to do that. Also, if you want to have the same functionality of moving it in the direction, after you press G, press Y, and it's going to lock your object in that axis, like in that precise axis. That, let's say if you're using this arrow, it would be the same thing where it's just locked to one axis. or to one direction. Same thing applies to the different axes. You press G and then Z, and you move your object all the way here. G, Z. The R key is for you to rotate your object. So as you can see, we're rotating in a very interesting direction. If you want to, let's say, have the same randomness where we can rotate in different directions, just like we can move our object in different directions, you can press R and R again, and we're moving our object in all directions. Same thing applies when you want to move your object in a certain direction. You press R and Y, and as you can see, we're rotating it on the Y axis. If you want to scale, the shortcut for scale is S. So when you press S, the default mode is to scale your object in all directions, just like when you come here and you click on the circle and it scales in all directions. But let's say you want to scale it in a particular direction, the same thing applies. You do S and Y, and then you scale up your object. So same thing, S, Z, scale up your object. So we've come to the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed yourself. How about you try opening Blender, putting in a cube, moving it up and down, and yeah, just basic navigation in the viewport. And I'll see you in the next class.